What it feels like to get high for the first time. Just a few weeks ago, I decided to use marijuana for the first time. So I rolled some joints and went to sit on a hill in the forest overlooking a river. I sat down, began to light my joints, about 0.4 grams of weed, and played some nice music, Dark Side of the Moon by Pink Floyd, Mamma Gamma by Alan Parsons Project, and Because I Got High by Afro Man. However, I was met with frustration as the wind kept blowing out my joint. I sat there for dozens of minutes until I finally got it properly lit, after which I inhaled as much smoke as I could, though it wasn't a lot for the amount of weed I had. To my disappointment, I thought I wasn't going to get high. But then as I peered into the horizon, an intense bulletin of laughter overtook me, even though there was nothing I found humorous. I was hysterically and uncontrollably laughing harder than I had laughed in years, at absolutely nothing. This was the most delightful feeling I had experienced in a long time. It was then unmistakable to me that the marijuana was finally taking effect. I wanted a few minutes to find out what would happen next, but I didn't notice any other effects. Until, that is, I stood up and noticed that all the light-shaded pebbles were bright and more contrasted than usual, and the sunlight on the ground appeared unusually bright. After I began walking, I felt as if I was moving in fast motion. Everything from my bodily movements to the shifting orientation of objects in my vision looked very continuous, as if life was upgraded to a higher frame rate. I felt as if I was in a video game, due to the odd, surreal feelings I had, combined with the nature of my motion perception. As I walked, all the objects in my field of view appeared to bounce with each step. I noticed the shift in apparent position of objects several blocks away, with respect to the background with my every movement. This was one of my favorite aspects of the high. Whenever I made a small movement with my arm, it felt very exaggerated. Even slight motions felt noticeably forceful. I felt very energetic and unusually light on my feet, and my overall tactile perception was heightened. I more easily perceived the feeling of my shorts rubbing against my legs when I walked, and the tips of my thumbs began stinging from when I had been lighting the joints. I soon felt very dreamy, and my imagination began wandering. My daydreams, in which I became totally immersed, were very vivid. They were basically dream/daydream hybrids, like the daydreams which occur when one has just fallen asleep, yet is still on the brink of wakefulness. Time felt as if it rapidly sped up at random times, such that my memory of occurrences a few minutes in the past felt like mere seconds ago. A few random memories surfaced in my mind, and I began automatically thinking of random sentences and strings of words. I kept repeating, "I drive my Chevrolet to Spain," and then made a little jingle out of it. Random tunes were being spontaneously created by my subconscious mind as well. I then decided to smoke another 0.5 grams of marijuana, and for the next 2 minutes or so, I expressed a perpetual goofy smile and had difficulty keeping a straight face. Soon, time felt substantially dilated, such that a few minutes felt like a much longer period of time. My auditory imagination was heightened. The song Dark Side of the Moon by Pink Floyd was playing in my head very vividly as I walked to my dorm. I listened to music, and certain background instruments sounded very contrasted compared to usual. The most subtle parts of the songs became the most obvious. Each song felt ridiculously long, too, due to my altered perception of time. I then went to the cafeteria and ate some food. I noticed that I almost automatically ate very quickly. The chocolate cookies I ate tasted amazing. I went back to my dorm after that. And as the effects were wearing off a bit, motion then appeared very choppy, as if space were composed of large pixels. When I looked in the mirror and moved my arm, it looked as if it was pixel skipping. I then went to the library and read some philosophy. It was slightly harder to read than it is when in my sober state, because I began feeling sleepy. I felt very relaxed and euphoric, and I felt a more pleasant and refreshing state of sleepiness than usual. It was not the "my eyes are so tired and I don't feel like doing anything" kind of sleepy. It was the "I feel wonderful and would love to go to sleep in my comfortable bed" kind of sleepy. I later went to bed, and by the next day, the effects had worn off. That subsequent day, I smoked another 0.1 grams, and then went to the library and meditated. I went into deep relaxation, and I began hearing strange electronic music sounds every few dozen seconds. For a reason I do not yet understand, this time my visual motion perception was altered for 5 consecutive days, and then finally wore off. I still need to get to the bottom of how this happened, for no one else I know of has experienced stoned effects lasting so long. That's it for today's video. What was your experience like the first time you got high? Tell us in the comments below. If you enjoyed this story, or if you have any requests for other crazy drug experiences, please leave a comment below and subscribe to our channel. Thanks again for sticking around till the end. See you in the next video. Stay trippy.